1, 2, 3, yo! Nicely done.
Well, watch your step there, Pilgrim. I'd like you to stay seated while the trolley's moving. You ought to keep all your... I didn't mean to be so tough, but there ain't no smoking. Yo!
John Wayne was actually in Cody back in 1976.
Here's the Duke in our downtown parade.
We stayed in town to cut the grand opening ribbon of the firearms portion of the Buffalo Bills Center.
Well, howdy, folks. My name is Eiley, and this is Delaney.
Howdy, folks.
And we'd like to welcome you to our 1-hour tour.
A 1-hour tour. The weather started getting rough. The tiny bus was crossed.
All right!
For the girl appeared a screw. The trolley would be lost. The trolley would be lost.
Here's all about this fella, Buffalo Bill, and his town in the Rockies. Let me introduce you to the Colonel. Born on February 26, 1846 in LeClaire, Iowa, William Frederick Cody. At the age of 11, his father died, so he began working wagon trains to support his mother and sisters. At the age of 14, he became a Pony Express rider and went on to become famous for their second longest ride, 322 miles in 21 hours and 40 minutes. At the age of 18, he went right into the Army. He caught the tail end of the Civil War and fought for the northern side with the Kansas Volunteers. But more than anything, he loved to hunt. At the age of 21, he was hired by railroad companies hunting buffalo to feed the hungry railroad workers laying tracks across the country. In just 1 year, he killed over 4,000 buffalo. The people were so impressed, they nicknamed him Buffalo Bill. We have a real buffalo horn we'd like to pass around the trolley. Make sure you don't run into one of these on your travels. In one battle, and he went on to become the chief of scouts for all of the generals. During his off time from scouting, he became an actor. Many people recognized him from the dime novels and newspapers and made him wealthy and an international star. By the time this picture was taken in the year 1900, he was the most famous man alive.
Buffalo Bill founded the town of Cody back in 1895. If you look out to your right, you'll have a beautiful panorama of the western third of our town, but to those distant mountains. You'd have also seen Crow Indian teepee villages set up along their canyon out there. There's a hot spring in the canyon that the Indians thought was good medicine. 120 years after...
Not bigger than we really are. But it does give us nice things like our golf course. Over here on your right is Olive Glen Country Club. It is open to the public. Now Delaney and I were out walking the back nine a few nights ago when a herd of antelope cut across. You know how the song goes. For the deer. Over here on your left is Livingston Elementary School. For 16 years, Wyoming has held statewide assessments, and 8 of those years, Livingston has held the top scores in the entire state. We are very proud of our students and teachers. We have 2,100 students here in our school district, 2,100 school district in the whole state.
That just goes to show you how lightly populated Wyoming actually is. You are over the hill. If you look to your right behind the flagpole over there, that is the old Marathon Oil headquarters. A few years ago they sold to the town, and today is used for our public library. Diaries and a telemarketing boiler room. We wouldn't let them out until they called everyone from Maryland to get enough money.
Thank you, Maryland. Now for a moment, I'd like for you all to pretend that you're standing out on this hill to your right, enjoying the view out in front of you. It looks dry, doesn't it? If you drove across Wyoming to get here, you'd notice how desolate it looks. There are hardly any trees.
Cody showed this picture to a group of 3rd graders on our tour one day, asking them what's missing, expecting them to say trees. A little girl yelled out Walmart.
Justice of the Peace. It is in its original location. Today it's a private residence, and we like that it still has a little family with kids.
We really do. Little kids have been slamming that door for more than 120 years now.
We'll be turning right here, and as we do, I'd like for you all to look across the street at this green home that will be on your left. This was built in 1902 for Cody's 3rd mayor, John Kearns. It was the first home in town to have indoor plumbing, and to the left of it was their carriage house where they stored their horse and buggy. This dark brown home next to it was built in 1898, and it has a lovely stand of aspen trees out front.
All these other homes on your left were built in the early 1900s. This used to be Cody's wealthy district. That's because our first canal ran at the base of the hill behind the home, making it very convenient to live here. But for the rest of Cody in the early days, if you need a barrel of water, what you would do is tie a red ribbon to your front porch and somebody bring you that barrel of water. That all worked out just fine until the first tourists came to town. They saw those red flags and thought that those homes had smallpox. So they
were all ordered from a Sears catalog. They were ordered and built in Illinois. The pieces were numbered, deconstructed to be shipped here by railroad, and then reassembled on site.
If those are the same 1908 four-square homes it used to be, one of those homes would have just costed $495.
And you can still buy one for $495 today, plus $300
Less show.
This building on the left side of the picture is the Irma Hotel. Buffalo Bill's home was over here on the right. And where you see this cowboy trying out is just across the street in this bank parking lot. As we turn, you'll have a better view of the back of the Irma Hotel just behind this tree ahead of us. Buffalo Bill's home was where that red brick building is now. It has since been moved. Now as a cowboy, to earn a spot in Buffalo Bill,
Specifically introduce to you a Congress of the Rough Riders of the World.
Buffalo Bill's voice was captured over 100 years ago.
Methodist Church here in Cody, built in 1902, and it cost $2,000 to build. Now, Buffalo Bill started his show in 1883, but he first took it to England in 1887. Queen Victoria reigned at the time, but she was a recluse. She never went out, and the people hadn't seen her for nearly 20 years. Well, here comes Buffalo Bill with his Wild West show, and she went. The English were amazed, but it was during that show that amazed them even more. The cowboys rode out on horseback, presented the American flag. Queen Victoria rose and she bowed deeply. A hush went over the crowd. Ever since the Revolutionary War, no English royalty had acknowledged the American flag. History was changed in that moment, and Buffalo Bill wrote in his journal that the Wild West was at the funeral when England and America buried the hatchet. It was at this point that England and America went on to become friends, and Queen Victoria and Buffalo Bill went on to become good friends.
Some any comfort in. This entire corner used to quite a bit different in the early days.
It sure did. This was the Buffalo Bill campground. Buffalo Bill had built the Irma Hotel to be a luxury hotel, but not everyone could afford the $3 a night to stay there. So he built this campground to give everyone an affordable place to stay. Works and Green Legends bookstore. This is a great example of the pressed metal fascia we used to make our buildings look fancier back then. Over here on your right is the Pioneer Building, built in 1905 with sandstone from Cody's Beck Lake. And at this intersection is where we measure Cody's elevation. We stand at 4,990 feet, just short of a mile. Also coming up on your left is the dark green Ferris Jewelry Building. This is the oldest commercial building here in downtown Cody. It was built in the late 1890s. And of course, in all of her glory, the Irma Hotel, built in 1902. Buffalo Bill built it to be the most luxurious hotel in all of the Rockies. It cost him $80,000 to build, and he named it after his youngest daughter, Irma. Here's the Irma Hotel and its current side porch. Here is downtown Cody. How many of you would have put a luxury hotel right there? Well, Bubbles. Cassie Waters was the most famous madam, and her place was just across the street on this right corner where you see that old car wash. We like that it still sort of has a red roof. Out of all of the buildings, however, only one remains standing in this area, and it's this white one coming up on your left. And today, it is Mimi's Daycare!
You know, some things never change.
Some things. That was Ida Knox. Had to move their operations outside city limits, away from the kids.
No, they just said they had to move. They didn't say they had to quit. Well, these ladies are savvy businesswomen. That's because Cody's original rodeo ground is across the street on the corner. Now inside there's a magnificent painting on a 16-high-foot dome ceiling that depicts the history of the Mormon Church, and there's also a second large room filled with fine Western art. My favorite part is about the big map about how the irrigation is laid out in our area, and that is all free of charge, and we highly recommend the Cody mural. 26. And it happened right at that back door with those diamond windows.
You know, I'll bet you wished you'd gone through the front door. Into old guns like these, we highly recommend the Cody Gun Museum coming up here on your left. It's on the second floor. They work on a donation basis, and it is free admission.
Alright, here, I'll record this.
2 members of that gang went into the front and shot him dead, and then they took off. Buffalo Bill was called in to track them down, but they got away. These parts. You can reserve chairs for that for $3 from JC at the trolley ticket booth.
Now, Cody has only had 3 bank robberies in its entire existence. The second occurred right here, coming up on our left at the Bank of the West. This happened in 1995. They caught the guy who did it, and he didn't get any money either. So Cody's been a tough count for bank robbers.
This red brick building on the left corner across the street is the Cody Heritage Museum. Inside is a museum about the pioneers and industries that made Cody what it is today. And just next to it is the Park County Love Today. Now, when Buffalo Bill died, the town wanted to erect a monument to honor him. They found New York artist Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney. She knew Buffalo Bill personally and was honored to do a sculpture for us. Straight ahead is Buffalo Bill as a military scout. He is looking for the trail. We'll be making our way around it to get some pictures, and as we do, if you pay close attention to the base, you can see it's modeled after Cedar Mountain, which is coming up on your left.
Now, Cedar Mountain is really important because that's where Buffalo Bill wanted to be buried. But when he died on January 10th, 1917, he was in Denver, Colorado visiting his sister. He died of kidney failure. He was 70 years old. When Buffalo Bill died, the leaders of Denver then approached Louisa, his widow, and offered her a very lavish funeral, all free of charge, as she would just allow them to bury Buffalo Bill outside of Denver on Lookout Mountain. They wanted a tourist attraction. Well, amazingly, Louisa agreed, and this greatly angered the Cody people. We're going to tell you what those Cody people did when we get a little closer to Cedar Mountain.
This statue on your left cost $250,000. Large glass windows. Those were installed to frame Mom's statue perfectly. So in essence, us not paying for the statue dictated where this entire complex is today, one of the finest Western museums in the world. Say that more people saw him laying in state than any U.S. president up to that point in history.
Many are stunned when they venture inside, and you will be too. With 200,000 visitors annually, the center is the most popular cultural attraction in the greater Yellowstone region.
To your left, through the trees and bushes, was the white church I pointed out in the picture earlier. I mentioned we moved to preserve it. That's where we moved it, and ever since then, it's been called the Poker Church.
No.
Speaking of deer, Buffalo Bill met his deer, his wife Louisa, in St. Louis, Missouri. They got married, and it was east meets west. Oil and vinegar on a honeymoon night. They had a very rocky marriage, but still managed to tag, and soldiers returning home brought with them influenza. Their youngest daughter, Irma, caught it and died, and her husband, Fred, died from it 3 days later. They're buried side by side in the back left corner of our cemetery, there on your right. Now, all of the Cody children did die young. Arda was 37, Irma was 35, Ora was 11, and they only had one son, little Kit Carson Cody, and he passed away at the age of 5.
When little Kit Carson Cody passed away at the age of 5 from on our left, it is the 3-lane paved highway. It's also slightly in front of us. Not disappoint with their music or their food, folks. You do not want to miss this show. And just so you know, you will get on time for the rodeo.
Also coming up on your right is another authentic attraction to Cody. This is old. Is anyone going to the rodeo tonight? Yeehaw! We have a great rodeo here in Cody. We call ourselves the rodeo capital of the world. And that's because we hold more pro-rodeo sanctioned events than any other rodeo. When you go, we recommend you sit in the Buzzards Roost, which are the stands facing this side of the highway. They have arm and back support. They're right over the chutes where the cowboys come out. Each summer, we'll have about 90 days straight of pure rodeo, and we're so crazy about it, we have our own t-shirts that say Cody, Wyoming, a drinking town with a rodeo
Which
problem.
way did it come from?
You can buy one of those shirts off the porch of the Irma Hotel. Now our friend Mike Johnson will now share his research about Buffalo Bill's burial story.
We know that Buffalo Bill wanted to be buried up here because his 1906 will said so. But he died in Denver, they buried him there, that angered the Cody people. We're gonna ride down to Colorado, dig up Buffalo Bill, and bring his body back here to the top of the mountain where it belongs. That story, because of his will, because he spent over $700,000 developing this area that's named after him.
Here is the old road to Yellowstone, in use until 1961. And if you think the roads are fun now, that was a real adventure. It is a narrow road winding through a beautiful canyon, headed right into a blind one-lane tunnel, around a corner, out and up a 22% grade hill to get over the top of the dam. You can walk or ride your bike out to look just over a chain link fence before we go in this first tunnel. Right there. Here is the photo opportunity of the canyon.
When we come out of the second tunnel, to our right in front of us is a popular rock climbing area. People go up these sheer cliffs, and they do it for fun.
There's one going now.
Now this last one is our longest tunnel. It runs 3,200 feet long. It took 4 years for them to build this, from 1957 to 1961. What they did was put a team of workers on each side, and they had to dig on an
If a car is coming, you have to pull
When
back.
they finally met in the middle, they see they're only 1 inch off their mark. They
They're not
used heavy
recording.
equipment,
Oh,
big
you are.
axes, hand-labored dynamite to build this tunnel. Now, since this tunnel is so long, it has a lighting and ventilation system. We'll be seeing the fans here shortly coming up on our left. Those are used to keep the exhaust and air moving through our tunnel.
Billy, don't stick out too much.
Right there is where you can see them. And if you notice, we're also still going uphill, and they had to dig at an angle, which made it more difficult to build.
This tunnel is the fallout shelter for the town of Cody. When it was being built in the late 1950s, we were still in the Cold War with Russia. Fun fact, he said that just a year before it opened, Cody High School's senior class held their senior prom out here. Now doesn't that sound romantic?
We're pretty sure they played old rock music.
I wouldn't take it for granted.
That's enough. It's not
When we come out of this last tunnel, the dam and visitor center will be slightly to our left behind us out of sight, but we will be at the Buffalo Bill Reservoir. Look at that view.
Anyone interested in the return ticket? Looking across the reservoir at this long, large mountain, this is the tallest point between us and Yellowstone. This is Carter Mountain. It stands at 12,200 feet. Just below it are subdivisions and ranches you're looking at.
Mounds and are 12 feet long. I'm a wisherwoman.
But we do have some great fish out there. There are actually 4 hot springs buried in the river between us and the rodeo grounds, and they say that the ecosystem of Yellowstone reaches out to those rodeo grounds. If you point your attention to the top of Cedar Mountain, that's where Buffalo Bill took 2 of his...
The Shoshone Dam, renamed as the Buffalo Bill Dam, my neck was hurt, insides were hurt, which caused much suffering in later years.
We highly recommend you take a visit out there and watch their damn video.
as we pop out of this second tunnel. And if there's anybody that on the left side that wants a picture but couldn't get one, I get a pretty good view from right here if you want me to grab one for you.
Vagrant, who had a very rough resemblance to Buffalo Bill.
Caroline with her pet bear.
Caroline was a frontier woman here in Cody. She is a writer. She owned our town's newspaper. And
Can you tell me who this is? That's right, Miss Annie Oakley, born Phoebe Ann Moses in Ohio. Her sisters called her Annie. Her family was so poor when she was a little girl, she took her daddy's hunting rifle off of the mantle and began shooting wildlife to feed the family. Thank you for coming along with us, and we hope that you had fun.
thank you very much, folks.
We're going to drop some friends off here at the Ponderosa campground. Then we're going to make... How many bears? One? Where was it? Was it a black bear or a grizzly bear?
Grizzly.
A grizzly? Very cool. You're doing better than I am. I never see bears.
I forgot.
We saw a ram today on the way here.
Ram. Interesting. Was it up on the rocks or just in the road?
On the rocks.
On the rocks. Super cool.
Okay, Calvin. Oh, thank you. Hello? Okay.
Go. Oh, how long? How long? Oh, no. Right, look here. 1, 2, 3, cheese. And go.
Our first stop is Cody. What?
Oh, two of them.
Our first stop is Cody Trolley Tours. Our next stop is Cody Trolley Tours. All right, and then now,
No more going on that.
oh, now we're going on the right. Now we're going on the Cody Trolley Tours. And okay,
This
so
is a 1 hour.
okay, yeah. This is a 1-hour tour that will take us all around Cody, learning about history and points of interest.
Okay. Go.
And that is the Cody Trolley Tour.
Okay.
Uh,
First
yeah.
one.
There's no food.
It takes you around town.
So
Did you like going to?
Alright,
Okay, yeah. I like how we went to see many different parts of Cody, including the tunnels, the dam, and the residential neighborhoods and some historic landmarks. And along the way, we learn about Buffalo Bill and other history. One interesting fact is that Buffalo Bill died in Denver, and many people think, and he was buried in Denver, but some people think he might be actually buried on top of the hill over there. So really, people are not sure where he's buried. And just for context, Buffalo Bill was a person who. And just for context, Buffalo Bill was a showman who did Wild West shows all around the world. Okay.
Go.
On to the next stop.
One step over, both of you. One more. All right. 1, 2, 3.